Well, let's continue that conversation now with the newly elected Tshwane Mayor, Randall Williams. He joins us now for more. Very good evening to you, Mr. Williams, and thank you so much for speaking to us. I want to just latch on to that last point made by my colleague, that you say you don't expect any more political interference, but yet just early, or rather late mid-month, you said that you believe that the administration aspect of what happened to the city was an attempt by the ANC for a power grab. So how confident are you that this political wrangling won't continue?
Well, look, definitely it was a power grab that they were trying to force early by-elections. But now we are at that stage where that can no longer happen. To force by-elections now would not work because of the Municipal Structures Act says that no by-elections may be held within 9 months of a general election. So that's too late. So they will have to wait till October to contest elections.
Okay, so let's look at the city's finances. You say the city is in distress to an amount of 4.4 billion rand, even accusing the administrators of blowing, as you call it, 1.5 billion rand, or rather, saying that the surplus that they'd promised has failed to materialise. How was that money blown, as it were?
Well, on Monday, I sat down with the acting city manager and also the CFO, and I was joined by the current MMC for finance, and we scrutinized the financial statements that will soon be submitted to the Auditor General to be audited. And it showed that in March, when we left the city, when we were forced out of office, we had a surplus of 284 million rands. And hardly 3 months later, by 30th of June, the administrators managed to turn that into a deficit of 4.4 billion rands. And ironically, the very reason why we were placed under administration was for financial mismanagement. And one of the examples they mentioned in court was the fact that we could not manage our debtors book. And in March, our debtors book was standing at 13 billion rands, and the provincial government said they needed to implement a financial recovery plan immediately to manage the debtors book. Now, 7 months later, after they've implemented the plan, the debtors book stands at over 18 billion rands.
Let's look at what are the core indicators. For instance, at some point, the DA claimed that administrators' salaries had been run up to 10 million rand, something which the Cocktail MEC denied, saying that the amount was in fact 7 million. So what I'm saying is there is going to be this back and forth, this finger pointing between the two parties. What are the key indicators, and what are they saying of the financial realities?
Look, there's a clear indicator of what the salaries was, because MEC Mahile reported in the provincial legislature that each administrator was being paid by the provincial government the amount of 193,000 rands. So these are clear indicators. We're not making up these sums. These were reported in the provincial legislature. And the amounts that I've mentioned is contained in the Tshwane financial statements that will be going to the Auditor General.
And you've said the time for paying lip service to promises is over. So what is then your vision for the city, especially given this politicking, how it's impacted on service delivery?
Well, what we need to do now, we need to implement a financial recovery plan, a real financial recovery plan. Now, we can do cost cutting, but where we can't is the core mandate of a local municipality. We need to continue to provide acceptable levels of basic service delivery. That we can't compromise on. But everywhere else, where it's nice to do, because a metro has got a lot of responsibility, and it's not restricted to the core mandate, because metros all over the world are engines of growth.
I mean, you are going to have to work with other political parties, the ANC, the EFF, which the DA has accused of trying to collapse the city. Where do you think the major challenges are? Because they've accused you as the party in governance at the time of not taking care of business, of, for instance, not keeping to promises of service delivery in areas where people are disadvantaged. How are you going to work together?
Look, all those reasons were proven to be false in court. The court judgment stands. The April of 29 judgment found all these allegations to be false. But the political circumstances in Tshwane is not unique. Exactly the same political circumstances now exist in Johannesburg. The roles are merely reversed. In Tshwane, you have a minority DA government, and in Joburg, you have a minority ANC government. And the ANC government relied on the DA to pass this current financial year's budget. And in addition, they rely on the DA to get quorum for council meetings so that important decisions can be taken. So if it can work in Johannesburg, why should Tshwane be any different?
But that's my point. I mean, you've accused the ANC of inaction when it comes to Penardsville, for instance, saying that they are allowing pollution to occur. And my point is, two parties will have to work together. How are you going to fix those problems that service delivery does not suffer as a result?
Look, what the judges found was that the two parties, the ANC and EFF, put party interests before the interests of the residents. So I would expect that with us going back to council, we all need to put the interests of residents first. And it's very, very important that we work together. And they can no longer walk out of council and collapse council, which the DA certainly doesn't do in Joburg.
All right, let's look at another issue. Your party's point of view of how the elections in the United States are progressing, the race itself, any particular preference for who should come out as victor?
Well, look, we're not here in South Africa to be divisive. And the one candidate in the US, Trump, is very divisive, and he uses this divisiveness to advance his own personal interests. The DA is a very empathetic organization in the mold of Biden. And if we had empathy this week in eThekwini, what happened in Durban, as far as xenophobia is concerned, would never have happened. So there needs to be empathy in this country.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. The new Executive Mayor of Tshwane, Randall Williams.